Taxes, yes, is something that we don't like, but we need to do it. We need to pay taxes. But this is why I have here today. I want to introduce an expert in taxes. He want to tell us when is the best moment to come to Spain to live, because it's not the same coming in 1 month or another related to taxes. So it's super important to understand this, and also the best city to live and it's cheaper taxes. So let's start. Don't miss this interview because very useful for you. Okay, let's start. Hello, good morning. We have here Jose Antonio Garcia Bescansa. Hello, how are you?
Hi there, how are you doing?
Well, you are international tax expert, no advisor. So,
Yes.
well, it's very important this topic because I have many clients that asking when they come to Spain and they check all the taxes they need to pay, they are impressed and they're in shock. So, could you tell us why in Spain we need to pay a lot of taxes? What is the difference with other countries?
Well, I understand that the first understanding is people say, wow, that's a lot of taxes. However, to be honest, that's not so much. I mean, it's quite similar to most of the OECD countries, quite similar to the States, quite similar to the UK, even lower than in some countries such as France or the Netherlands. And I know that you see the high tax rates, and yeah, that seems a lot, but that's only for a very few. And those who actually have a lot of money can restructure that into paying less taxes through a tax advisor, of course. And by the end of the day, there are a lot of allowances, a lot of deductions, a lot of reductions, a lot of ways to actually reduce your tax debt. So even though on paper it looks scary, it's actually not that much. Because you need to know the tricks and you navigate in the system. No, do you think? Of course. It depends where are you going, what are your sources of income? Can you maybe restructure your business that you may have outside of Spain to pay less taxes in Spain? Where can you relocate? When can you relocate? What investments or sales and when to do them to avoid paying such high taxes in Spain? That's a lot of important points that I know, as we were saying before, it looks like you read in the internet and say, oh, that's a lot of taxes. But if you get proper advice and you get a proper tax advisor, such as myself, you can reduce that tax liability in Spain.
Nice. Okay, this is a good news. And also, they have a lot of clients they want to buy a house in Spain. How is the taxes situation? You need to pay the taxes in Spain, or how
Yeah,
much?
if you actually buy a property in Spain, there are a few implications. The first one is that you have to pay something called the property transfer tax. So it's a tax that you pay when you buy something. Usually it's something around 10%, but in some regions of Spain, it can be lower. It can be a 5%, it can be either a 7%. So depending on where you're buying it, it's a lower tax rate. And then just for the fact of owning the property, it depends. If you're going to live there, no taxes. If you're going to have it just for holiday purposes to go back and forth, then you may have to pay a slight amount on the inputted a fictional income. And last but not least, if you decide to say, okay, while I'm not living there, I'm going to rent it, you will have to pay taxes on that rent. And in the future, if you decide to sell it, you will have to pay taxes. But yeah, it has different stages when you purchase it, in the meantime, and by the end of the life of that asset.
So, for example, if you buy a house and you rent it and you live in another country, but you rent it in Spain, the taxes you need to pay in Spain.
Of course, yes. On a quarterly basis, you have to pay, you have to file a tax return. Paying it can be a 19% of the rental profit or a 24% of the actual rental income, and you have to pay that to the Spanish tax authorities.
Mhm. What is the most important thing people don't know when they arrive to, and then they make this mistake? The things that they need to know when you come here related to taxes, of course.
It should be a general understanding. My point of view is always when you arrive, obtain an advice. I mean, either if you're just getting 90 minutes of 30 minutes of a consultation or maybe 1 hour, so you understand what's going to happen and when are you going to happen and when it's going to happen. Because depending, as we were saying before, when you arrive in Spain, your tax status might be different for that tax year. You
You
might be
say
eligible
when
for.
in the month is different, depend of the month.
Yes.
Really? Mhm.
Indeed, yeah. For a tax year, it runs from January to December. So if you arrive in early in that year, you become a tax resident in Spain for the whole tax year. But if you said, okay, I'm going to arrive, I can arrive in May or in August, my advice is always to arrive later. Why? Because if you arrive in August, you become a non-Spanish tax resident, which means that if you are going to perceive during that tax year some income, that income will not be subject to taxes. I'm going to give you an example. There's some guys that are coming from the States into Spain, and they were saying, okay, we're going to sell our property in Austin, Texas, and we will be arriving in Barcelona. When should we arrive? Because we have already sold the property. And I told them, guys, arrive after July. Why? Because you will be a Spanish non-tax resident because you were less than half of the year in Spain. And that way, this capital gain you have obtained from the sale of your US property will not be subject to taxes in Spain. So it depends because many individuals, many circumstances, and it's not a general rule, but it's important always to address to a proper tax advisor and say, Jose, this is what I'm going to do. How can I reduce my taxes? Where should I locate in Spain? Because, for instance, in Madrid and Andalusia, there is no wealth tax. In Catalonia, there are different rules. In Balearic Islands, there are others. So depending on where you decide to relocate, some different rules should apply. So it's always important to obtain a proper tax advice. That's my advice as an advisor.
No, it's very important. So you recommend after summer is the best time to come to Spain?
If you can do it, yes.
It's very, very good point, because people, okay, whatever, they don't think in that, no? So it's very important that. Thank you very much for sharing. So also, if you are a freelance, you just come here, you don't have money to buy a house, but you are freelance. So how is the autónomo? Is a figure that in Spain people need to do it. Could you explain more or less? Because I think it's very different from other countries.
So a freelancer is an autónomo, and it's a person who does his own business, not through a company, by himself or herself. So what you need to do is mostly two things. The first one is register before the Spanish Social Security system, and the other one is register before the Spanish tax authorities. The Social Security system works like any other country's Social Security. You make some Social Security contributions, some monthly payments that can be starting by 80 euros a month, and then it keeps growing. And through that payment, in case anything happens to you, maternity leave, an injury, you retire, you will perceive the Social Security payment from the Social Security authorities when that time comes. That's one thing you must do. And the other one is, of course, you must pay taxes. If you register in the Spanish Social Security before the Spanish tax authorities, you have to say, guys, I'm going to do this activity. And therefore, I will have to pay you 20% of my quarterly profit on a quarterly basis. Every quarter, I have to give you 20% of my profit. And besides, if I charge VAT to any client from Spain or from outside Spain, that VAT corresponds to the Spanish tax authority. And at the same time, if you pay some VAT related to your business, that VAT must be refunded to you. So somehow, the VAT you have perceived from your clients is offset with the VAT you have paid to your provider. So the difference is the amount you will have to either pay or get refunded. So by the end of the day, what you need to understand is you must register as a freelancer before the Spanish Social Security and before the Spanish tax authorities, and then file your quarterly tax returns.
Because you know more or less the map of Spain, where is the best city? Because people are thinking in living cities for the atmosphere, for the weather, but they don't think in taxes. So related in taxes, where is the best city to live in Spain?
Of course. So my advice is always to relocate to Madrid. I don't live in Madrid, I live in Catalonia. There's no personal interest in that. But why Madrid is so far the best? First of all, they don't have wealth tax. Andalusia doesn't have wealth tax either. That's true. But besides Madrid, the highest tax rate for the highest bracket is 43%. And in Andalusia, it's going to be 48%. So it's 5 points of difference. So if you're saying, okay, I want to live in one region that actually has the lowest tax rates inside of Spain and doesn't have wealth tax, that is Madrid. Besides, in Madrid, if you perceive an inheritance, you can get a 99% bonification If you perceive a gift, you can also get a 99% bonification. So Madrid, by the end of the day, it's a little tax haven inside of Spain.
Wow. Rather like, but it's true that in Madrid, the houses are very expensive to buy. So then,
Of course, of course, but that's their way to attract into the region of Madrid more investors, because if you save money from taxes, you can have more money to buy a property.
Yeah, very intelligent. I didn't know that. Thank you. Yeah, I will recommend
My pleasure.
my students also, because they are choosing which city to live. Yeah, so it's very important.
Of course.
That taxes. And the best trick that you can, because you right now you gave a lot of tricks, but the best trick, like to save legally, of course, we don't say illegally, save taxes.
Of course.
Which one could you recommend us?
I would discuss the Beckham law regime. The Beckham law regime is a special tax regime. It's on name of David Beckham, the footballer. So you and me as ordinary tax residents, we have to pay taxes on our worldwide income. And as we were saying before, the tax rate can go up to 52% in the highest bracket in Catalonia, and in savings income 28%. And we are subject to wealth tax, and we have to inform our goods and assets abroad. But those who are eligible for the Beckham law can apply to this very specific tax regime, which says, we know that you have arrived in Spain because you have a new employment contract with a Spanish entity, you are working remotely for your foreign employer, you are being appointed director of a Spanish entity, or you're being given an intercompany transfer inside of the same company. So if you meet these requirements and you have not been a Spanish tax resident in the last 5 years, you can apply for this regime, which allows you to only be taxed on your worldwide employment income and worldwide freelancing income and Spanish sourced other kind of income. And the tax rate is a flat 24%. What does this mean? This means that a guy from the UK comes into Spain, is hired by Spanish entity, and then he applies for the Beckham regime. If this person has a property in London and he's renting it, the rental income from the British property is not going to be subject to taxes in Spain. If this person has investments in a Swiss bank account and he's perceiving interests or dividends, he's not going to pay taxes on those interests and dividends. And if eventually he decides to sell the British property and obtain a capital gain, that capital gain is not subject to taxes in Spain. So, and besides, the tax rate, as we were saying before, it's 24%. So it's really low if you are going to perceive more than 60K per year. For instance, if you're perceiving 90K, the tax rate is something around 32%. So try to imagine, it's 8 points of difference. So if you're arriving in Spain with a good employment contract, you say, okay, I want to apply for this because then my employment income is going to be taxed at a lower tax rate. And besides, everything that I have outside of Spain is not going to be subject to taxes in Spain. And as the cherry on top, you don't have to pay wealth tax and you don't have to inform on your goods and assets abroad. And not only you, but also your spouse can be eligible and can apply for the Beckham regime. So this is kind of the best trick. Sometimes, depending on your company, depending on your circumstances, it's not quite straightforward. But if you speak to a proper tax advisor like myself, you can structure and understand the way to go through it and then apply for this regime.
Wow. Okay. Super interesting. Thank you. Yeah. Very interesting. And regarding countries, which country has the most challenge to arrive to Spain? Which country do you think is more complicated for people from different Americans from London?
Tax-wise, you mean?
Like I'm from France, it's easier than if I'm from America.
To be honest, it doesn't make any difference where you're coming from. But regarding the mindset of those nationals, I think that those from the United States have more difficulties understanding why is the state getting his hands on my money so much. It's a way of thinking different, and those are the nationals from which I spend more time explaining them what's going on, how do taxes work, this is not confiscatory, how can you avoid paying taxes twice, and how this is possible, etc., etc.
Yeah, it's totally, I know. I was living there and it's super different, the system. Yeah.
Of course.
Well, thank you very much. You are very expert. I can see you have many things, so your
Thank you so much.
expertise help a lot. I hope, okay, if you have, guys, any question, please, here I will let the email and all the information. He's an expert, he can help you. So I hope you can help many, many people coming to this amazing country, Spain.
I hope to, Carolina. Just to inform you and to inform your students and everything, you don't need to actually hire me and pay me some money for the consultation. My modus operandi is usually I give an initial consultation of 20 minutes for free. So you basically understand the situation. And after that, if you need actually advice, then I'm open to assist. But if someone has any concern, anything, and say, okay, maybe after this video, I need to discuss with Jose, but I'm not willing actually to pay for a proper consultation, they can have a 20 minutes free call and we can discuss that.
This is a lot, yeah, because usually you need to pay the consultation. So thank you very much for that, your time free. Okay, thank you. I hope we can talk later. Ciao, ciao. Bye.
That's great. Have a lovely day.
Well, what do you think? Super useful, right? A lot of information that is very important to understand and to know. So if you know more questions, you have more questions, here I give you all the information about him. He's very nice, very accessible, so I'm happy you can understand more or less how works Spain. And if you want to come to Spain, of course, you need to first to know the language, because if not, will be very complicated, and also you will spend a lot of time organizing, hiring people to do things for you because you don't know the language. So I advise you first come to the country with your survival Spanish. This is why I have a program for you to come to Spain with a very survival Spanish ready to organize and create all your life in Spain. So here's all the information, come and I explain you everything, how it works, and believe me, it's because I was living in many countries, I know what do you need, how you can learn Spanish very easy, and this is, I'm here for you to help you. So I hope you can come to Spain very safely, and if you need me, I'm here. So let's continue in next time. Okay, ciao, ciao, bye.